Exposed, racist doctor's heartwarming transformation. After an unexpected encounter with a patient. Dr. Harold Keller had always prided himself on the pristine reputation he built in the small Midwestern town of Maplewood. It was a cozy place where the sweet scent of pies wafted through the air, mingling with the fresh-cut grass of summer. Yet, beneath his polished exterior lay an unsettling truth: the well-respected physician held firm biases against those he deemed unworthy. It took an unexpected encounter to shatter the constraints of his narrow views. That day, when Lisa walked into Harold's clinic, she was the very embodiment of resilience. A worn-out but hopeful single mother, her gentle hands cradled her asthmatic son, Alex. With each breath he struggled to take, the tension in the air became palpable. Harold initially eyed her with an indifferent gaze, her accent marking her as an outsider in a town he believed strictly adhered to his ideals of self-reliance and hard work. "Oh, I'm just here for the checkup," she said, her voice steady, revealing the tenacity beneath her fatigue. But Harold's dismissive tone caught her off guard. "Just fill out the paperwork," he said curtly, the words falling like lead weights in the room. He failed to see the fear in her eyes as she recounted her struggles, job losses, and battling prejudice as an immigrant with nothing but determination to make life better for her son. At first, Harold remained rigid in his views, harboring quiet contempt for her apparent challenges. With a flippant wave of his hand, he scribbled a prescription for Alex, confident in his seemingly tireless medical acumen. But the moment he stepped out of the room, the air shifted. A quick realization snapped into focus when he caught that glimpse of Lisa's pleading eyes, those eyes that spoke volumes of hope mixed with desperation. "Wait!" she called after him. "Please, listen to me. He needs better treatment." In her voice, there was a tremor, as palpable as Alex's gasps for air. A pang of guilt tugged at Harold, but old beliefs held him fast, like iron shackles on his conscience. In a moment of careless haste, he ignored her concern. Later that day, an error in prescribing Alex's medication took place. The weight of his negligence hovered ominously over him, and as the news reached Lisa, her fury echoed like thunder in the clinic halls. "You put my son's life in danger," she shouted. The air crackled with electricity as the room filled with witnesses, all living testimonies of the rift between Harold's beliefs and their community's compassion. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As Lisa recounted her trials, the sleepless nights, the prejudice, the tears, something began to crack within Harold. The childhood teachings that once shaped him started to crumble at the edges. Memories of his parents' stern beliefs echoed like a haunting melody in his mind. But this was not the time for reflection. It was a moment to confront the uncomfortable truth of his actions, the arrogance that gripped him. The day of the annual community fair loomed overhead, vibrant and bustling, yet Harold felt trapped. Around him, the townsfolk rallied behind Lisa, their voices entwined with unity. For the first time, he felt solitude in a crowd, a gnawing despair unraveling within him as the warm summer breeze twisted through the fairgrounds, whispering promises of change. Could he muster the courage to step away from the shadows of his past and into a brighter future? Would he finally confront the biases that had held him captive for so long? The night was closing in, but clarity began to dawn. Jerry had a choice to make. Harold stood at the sidelines of the community fair, his heart racing. The laughter and music bled into a distant hum, drowned out by the chaos in his mind. The vibrant colors of the booths, with their prizes and games, blurred together as he replayed Lisa's words in his head. "You put my son's life in danger." Each time the accusation echoed, it felt like a blow to his chest. The people around him chatted and cheered, but he felt isolated, a ghost haunting the joy. They had rallied for Lisa, for Alex. In that moment, he realized how deeply disconnected he had been from the very community he claimed to serve. Just steps away from him, Lisa was surrounded by friends and neighbors, finding solace in their support. Her resilience drew admiration, while Harold's rigid pride felt like an anchor weighing him down. He was a doctor, for goodness sake. He saved lives, or, at least he was supposed to. Yet here he stood, the architect of a child's suffering. The wind picked up, fluttering the crepe paper decorations above him, and he felt the urge to run from these painful truths, but instead he stood still, paralyzed by guilt. Harold finally turned his gaze toward Lisa. She was holding Alex, who was now sleeping soundly in her arms, his little body finally at peace. The sight of them struck him to his core. Could he really live with himself knowing he had endangered this child? The vision of Alex struggling for breath replayed in his mind like a broken record. It made his gut twist. As he took a hesitant step forward, the murmurs surrounding him quieted, new eyes falling on him. Townsfolk turned from their joyous chatter, their expressions shifting from enthusiasm to discomfort. He could feel the tension in the air, the way they whispered behind his back, the disappointment heavy in their glances. He had lost respect, and this time, more than a reputation was at stake. "Dr. Keller?" A voice broke through the silence, familiar yet jarring. It was Clara, one of the nurses from his clinic. Her eyes, typically filled with warmth, now carried a hard edge. "What are you doing here?" The question rang loud and clear, piercing through his shame. He opened his mouth, ready to voice regret, to apologize, but words failed him. Instead, he clenched his fists, feeling the weight of expectation settle upon his shoulders. As he stood there, the decision loomed large, like a dark cloud overhead. Change didn't come easily, it demanded confrontation, vulnerability, something he had spent his life avoiding. Each heartbeat felt like a call to action, urging him to step into the light rather than remain shrouded in the shadow of his past mistakes. Before he could think better of it, he stepped forward, breaking the invisible barrier surrounding him. I need to speak to you, Lisa," he stammered, his voice barely rising above the whispers. All eyes turned toward him, the collective air thickening with anticipation and skepticism. He felt exposed, raw, but also alive with purpose. Perhaps this was the moment he had been waiting for, the chance to change, to grow, to truly heal. But as he approached Lisa, excitement and fear clashed within him, leaving a knot in his stomach. Would she hear him out? Would she even want to? Could he make amends in a way that truly mattered? With every step, the weight of his previous biases felt like chains falling away, tinged with hope and uncertainty. The tight-knit community, his community, watched curiously, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. Would the sincerity in his heart be enough to win back the trust he'd jeopardized? As he stood before Lisa, breathless and resolute, he felt the cusp of change on the horizon, electric and daunting. But would he find the right words to make it count? Lisa's gaze shifted from the warm circle of friends to Harold, her expression unreadable. She shifted Alex slightly, as if to protect him from whatever storm had just rolled in. Her body tensed, a reflex to the vulnerability Harold was about to lay bare. Everyone else seemed to fade into the background, their whispers muted, as if the world had shrunk down to just the two of them. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with doubt. Harold could sense the walls she had built around herself. They were walls he had helped construct. He took a deep breath, searching for courage behind the guilt weighing him down. "I'm sorry," he began, the words tumbling out faster than he could process. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake, and I hurt you and your son. I failed you both." Each word felt like glass shards in his throat. Lisa's eyes softened momentarily. Then, as if remembering the pain etched across her son's face that day, she hardened again. "You're not the only one affected by your actions, Harold. He's just a child." Her pain cut deeper than he had anticipated. He could see her struggle, how her love for Alex battled with the distrust he had sown. What he felt was palpable, the impending collapse of everything he had known. He tried again, trying to dredge up something honest that could bridge the distance between them. "I've spent my career dodging the uncomfortable truths," he admitted, a lump rising in his throat. "I didn't realize how disconnected I was from the people I was supposed to serve, like you and Alex. That day, I prioritized my own fears over your son's life. And I was wrong." She watched him critically, her expression softening just a fraction. "What do you want from me, Harold?" she asked, her voice quieting, losing its edge. More than anything, he wanted her to see him as human, flawed, and willing to change. "I want a chance to do better," he replied, the urgency in his voice lending weight to his words. "I want to make this right. Not just for Alex, but for you as well. I am here to listen, to learn. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to be a part of changing the narrative." The silence stretched, thick with history and heavy emotions. Around them, the distant sounds of laughter began to seep back in, a stark contrast to the gravity of their exchange. "I need time to think," she finally said, her eyes glistening. It wasn't a full acceptance, but neither was it denial. "Of course," he said, his heart racing with a mix of hope and dread. "I understand." Lisa looked back to Alex, her son, sleeping peacefully despite the tension in the air. She seemed to gather strength from him, rebuilding those walls Harold had once brutishly torn down. He took a step back, feeling like a man offering hope before a vast chasm. "Just know, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere," he promised. As he turned to leave, the weight of uncertainty loomed over him. Had he done enough? Could redemption really be possible? Behind him, the whispers picked up again, but they felt different now, tinged with curiosity rather than scorn. He had taken the first step. The space to grow was there, but would Lisa provide the chance? With furtive glances cast his way, Harold felt the pulse of the community, the rhythm of hope igniting. Yet he was anxious, caught between what he'd done and what he needed to become. As he reached the edge of the fairground, his heart still drumming with adrenaline, he wondered, would this be the hardest conversation he'd faced, or simply the beginning of something powerful? The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow across the fairground as Harold walked away, the laughter of families mingling with the distant sounds of carnival rides. Each step felt heavier than the last, his heart a turbulent mix of hope and fear. He had crossed a line today one he thought he could never approach again. But now, after facing Lisa, he wasn't sure what to expect. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a small park bench tucked under a tree, the kind with peeling paint and weathered wood. It beckoned him to sit and collect his thoughts. Taking a moment, he sank onto the bench and let out a long, shaky breath. The weight of regret settled in, but beneath it shimmered a flicker of something unfamiliar: determination. Harold reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, fingers hovering over the screen. He hesitated before scrolling through his contacts until he found the name he needed. With a deep breath, he pressed the green button, nervously glancing around the crowded fairground. "Dr. Thompson, it's Harold," he said when the familiar voice picked up. I need to talk to you. About the way I've been doing things, the way I've been seeing people." "Surprised to hear from you," the doctor's voice was cool, perhaps even condescending. "What's this about?" "I've made mistakes, and it's time I owned them. I don't know how this happened, but I want to change. I want to be better for my patients, for myself. Can we meet? Change isn't easy, you know. It takes real work and honesty," Dr. Thompson replied, his tone shifting slightly more curious than dismissive. "I'm ready. I'll do whatever it takes." There was a new conviction and urgency in Harold's voice he hadn't heard before. Silence stretched between them, and for a moment, he feared he had overstepped. But then, Dr. Thompson let out a slow breath. "All right. I'll give you a shot, but be prepared to face what comes." After hanging up, a wave of emotion washed over him. He was stepping into uncharted territory, and it terrified him. But what scared him more was the thought of not trying at all. As he sat quietly on the bench, he kept glancing back toward where Lisa stood with Alex. The sight of her loving gaze directed toward her boy sent a pang of longing through him. He wished desperately to be a source of strength rather than pain. The thought of possibly earning her trust ignited a fire within him. Time slipped away, and soon enough, he felt the warmth of the sun give way to the cool evening breeze. He rose from the bench, sadness mixed with resolve. If he could demonstrate sincerity to Lisa, maybe the community would grant him the same chance. Just as he began to walk away, he heard a giggle. Turning, he found a group of children nearby, their joy infectious as they watched a magician perform tricks. In that moment, he remembered what it meant to believe in something bigger than oneself, the kind of magic that came from healing and reconciliation. Of course, it wouldn't be easy. He felt the walls he'd built begin to fumble, cracks already starting to form. With every step, he swore he could hear those walls echoing, reminders of his past mistakes. But as he looked back at Lisa, the scene replaying in his mind, he raised his chin a little higher and pushed forward. What had once felt like an insurmountable wall seemed instead to transform into a bridge, a chance to restore hope, not just for himself but for Lisa, Alex, and perhaps even others he had driven away with his past. As he exited the fairground, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real journey was just beginning. He would need to confront so many difficult truths. With an intense urge to face what lay ahead, he whispered to himself, "It's not just about wanting forgiveness, it's about earning it." But as he stepped onto the empty street, a chilling thought struck him. Would he truly be ready for the truths he had avoided for so long? The street was quieter now, with shadows stretching across the pavement as night crept in. Harold stuffed his hands into his pockets, the cool air sending a shudder through him. Each step felt like he was traversing a tightrope, balancing between the past he'd built and the uncertain future ahead. He turned toward the community center, the place where he used to attend meetings when he still felt like part of something. Images of those days flickered in his mind. He remembered the warmth of friendships crafted in shared experiences, the laughter and support that had once surrounded him. Those memories felt like light slipping through his fingers. As he walked, he thought of Lisa. She had always deserved better than the version of him that had come to light that day. Inspiration mixed with a severe pang of guilt. Could he show her he had changed? Could he become the man she needed, the man Alex deserved? He reached the center, the clamor of voices spilling into the twilight. A slight smile danced on his lips as he recognized familiar figures in the parking lot. They were fellow practitioners, colleagues he had drifted away from. They were joking and laughing, shoving each other playfully as they prepared for a youth workshop. "Harold," one of them called, waving him over. "Join us. We're just setting up." He hesitated, anxiety creeping back in. Would they remember the doctor he had been? The one who had withheld compassion in dark moments? But then again, hadn't he, Lisa, too, seen the much-needed potential beneath his surface? He swallowed hard, gathering his courage. I'd love to," he responded, his voice stronger than he felt. As he approached, he caught snippets of their lively conversations, filled with excitement about the impact they hoped to make on the kids. The laughter soothed his nerves, drawing him into their vibrant energy. "Hey, we can use another hand over here," another colleague called, pointing to tables overflowing with supplies. Harold moved in, his heart thumping loudly in his chest, unsure of how to engage. "Let us make this as fun as possible. These kids deserve it," he heard another voice say, full of conviction. That simple statement hit home. It reminded him why he was drawn to this field in the first place, that he began helping, arranging craft supplies and team-building activities, falling into an easy rhythm with the others. The more he engaged, the more he started feeling a sense of shared purpose. Laughter bled into his soul, even stirring a memory of happier times. But just when he felt a sense of belonging creeping back, doubt gripped him. In the middle of a light-hearted moment, he caught a glimpse of Lisa and Alex through the window. They were walking past, smiles bright on their faces, and for a second, time stood still. Harold's heart tightened as Lisa glanced his way, their eyes meeting for a fleeting moment. There was a flicker of recognition on her face, then uncertainty. As the door swung open, the familiar sound of laughter faded, replaced by an anxious hush. Harold turned, every nerve in him electric as he faced her. Questions bubbled up. Did she see the man he could be? Or was she still trapped in the past versions of him, forever tainted by his mistakes? Just as he opened his mouth to speak, she hesitated, her expression wavering. Harold. That one word carried the weight of 1,000 unsaid things. Before he could respond, a child darted into the room, pulling her along with wild enthusiasm, oblivious to the charged atmosphere. But for Harold, the moment stood still, hanging between them like the moment just before a storm breaks. Would he find the heart to face his past right here, in front of her? Would they be able to reconnect, or was it a bridge too far to cross? As the chaos of laughter enveloped them both, Harold's heartbeat quickened. It was time to answer that question. The room pulsed with energy as laughter echoed around Harold and Lisa. Children buzzed with excitement, their bright eyes reflecting the spirit of the event. Yet, in that moment, all Harold could focus on was Lisa. The warmth of the room felt distant as the air thickened around them. Harold. She said it again, but this time there was a gentleness to her voice that cut deeper than his fears. Was it a plea for understanding? Or just recognition of old mistakes? Lisa, he managed, his throat dry. He took a step closer, feeling the weight of the moment shift beneath him. It's good to see you here. Her gaze flickered toward the children, who were busy creating colorful banners, the vibrant markers strewn across the tables. But when she looked back at him, her expression wavered, a mix of hope and caution. I didn't expect to see you. Her words hung between them, each syllable echoing the unspoken feelings they both carried. I know I haven't been around. He stopped, the words catching in his throat. How could he explain everything he felt? The regrets, the longing to change? The thought of Alex, of how he wanted to be a better man for them all, surged through him. I've been trying to get my life together since everything. She nodded slowly, eyes softening as the tension ebbed just a little. You look different. Happier? Trying to be, he replied, his voice trembling slightly. I've been working at the community center. I want to help, make a difference for the kids. She seemed to ponder that, a flicker of understanding passing between them. The kids need that. They need someone who actually cares. Positioning her hands on her hips, Lisa's smile began to return, but it was tinged with an uncertainty that made Harold's heart race. I never stopped believing you could be that person. The way she looked at him, the glimmer of hope mixed with painful memories, made him wish he could take back everything that had gone wrong. Just then, a burst of laughter from the group pulled their attention back to the children. One little boy, energetic and spirited, had painted his face with blue and green splatters, looking like he'd just leaped out of a wild jungle. His wide grin brought smiles to everyone around. Hey, Harold. Can you come help me make the biggest sign ever? The boy's enthusiasm broke through the heavy air, a whimsical invitation that felt like a lifeline. Harold glanced at Lisa, her expression a mixture of amusement and warmth. It opened a door in him, pushing the barriers of doubt a little further away. Sure. I'd love to. As they moved toward the kids, Harold felt a sense of purpose washing over him, but the moment with Lisa lingered. Would he be able to bridge the gap created by his past in the eyes of those he loved? Hey! He called to the boy, let's make it the most colorful sign this place has ever seen. Their laughter and creativity intertwined, filling the room with excitement. But in the back of his mind, Harold couldn't escape the lingering question. Could he truly redefine himself in Lisa's eyes? The more the projects unfolded, the clearer it became the challenges he faced were not just about the kids, they were about facing himself and his relationship with Lisa. As the workshop progressed, he glanced frequently toward her, hoping to find encouragement reflected back at him. But there was still a distance, an unspoken tension that lingered. With every smile exchanged, the hope blossomed anew, mingled with uncertainty. Just when he thought they were finding their way back, a call of distress erupted from the back of the room, drawing everyone's attention. What happened? Harold rushed, anxiety gripping him anew. Before he could fully process the chaos unfolding, he saw a child on the floor, tears streaming down his face. Time slowed as Harold took instinctive steps toward the situation, Lisa just behind him. Would he rise to the occasion? Or would old patterns emerge, threatening to pull him back into the shadows? In that moment of action, every past mistake flooded his mind, but so too did a sense of clarity. As he knelt beside the child, Harold felt the weight of expectation bearing down. Could he finally show that he was not the man he once was? Would this moment define him? In the heart of compassion, he leaned in closer, ready to delve into the unknown. Would he find the courage he needed? Harold. Lisa's voice called from behind him, a mix of determination and hope. And just like that, Harold felt everything crystallize. This was his turning point. This was his moment. The answer lingered in the air, but he had to face it head-on. All he could do was hope that it would lead him to where he truly belonged. Harold's heart pounded in his chest as he knelt next to the little boy, who pointed a trembling finger at a huge, double-sided poster board crumpled on the floor. It was supposed to be a bright, diverse depiction of their community. Instead, it lay abandoned, partially ruined. The child's shoulders shook, his tears painting a heartbreaking picture of disappointment. "What happened, buddy?" Harold asked softly, momentarily blocking out the lingering noise of the other children and their laughter. He reached out, brushing a hand over the boy's shoulder to offer comfort. "I ruined it," the boy whimpered. "I wanted it to be perfect." Harold's heart ached at the words. He recognized the weight of wanting things to be just right, especially now. The pressure to be a better father, a better man, hung heavy on him. In that moment, he wished he could reassure the boy that imperfections didn't define worth, that mistakes could lead to something even more beautiful. "Hey," Harold began, pulling the boy into a brief hug. "Let us not worry about perfection. Everyone makes mistakes. We can fix this together, okay?" The child looked up, his big, wet eyes searching Harold's face for hope. "Really?" "Absolutely. We can make it even better than before." Harold's voice picked up in energy. He pointed at the colorful paints laid across the table nearby. "Let us add some more colors. We'll turn this into a masterpiece." With a tentative smile blooming on the boy's lips, Harold felt a flicker of warmth ignite inside himself. He glanced back at Lisa, who stood just a few feet away, watching them. Her eyes glimmered with pride, and for a second, Harold thought he could see her belief in him. That lingering flicker from before was now a steady flame. With renewed determination, he helped the boy back to his feet, guiding him back to the table. As they picked up brushes and started slapping vibrant colors across the board, laughter bubbled up once more. It was silly and messy, yet beautiful in its rawness. Other kids began to gather around, eager to join in. The room brightened with their giggles as they passed brushes back and forth, painting over the crumpled poster with wild strokes of orange, pink, and bright green. "Look! I made a sun!" shouted one girl, who pointed to the yellow orb beaming happily at the top of their chaotic collage. "That's amazing! Let us add some rainbow rays." Harold cheered, momentarily forgetting his worries. As the chaos of creativity swirled around him, Harold began to feel the walls within himself soften. The distance he had felt with Lisa earlier seemed to wane as he watched her smile. She stepped closer to join them, leaning down to paint with the kids. The edges of their past tangled with the present, and suddenly, they weren't just Harold and Lisa from before, they were part of something new. "See, we're all in this together, and it's wonderful," Lisa said, her voice full of excitement as she waved her brush dramatically. "Yeah. It's not just me," the little boy chimed in, his previous sorrow forgotten, replaced by excitement. A sense of unity blossomed in the air, wrapping around them like a warm blanket. Harold felt hope surge within him, mingling with the laughter swirling through the room, but as the mural began to emerge, vibrant and full of life, an unexpected pang hit him. How long could this last? The lingering shadows of doubt still loomed. Could they truly build something strong together as a family? Would the connection he felt with Lisa endure? Just then, a loud crash echoed from the other side of the room, breaking their joyous moment. All heads turned as a shelf full of supplies tumbled over, sending posters and art supplies flying. Oh, Harold whispered, feeling a knot tighten in his stomach. Would this chaos throw everything into disarray? Would their newfound warmth retreat again into confusion? Harold exchanged a quick look with Lisa, and he could read the question in her eyes. Could they handle this together, all of them? The moment stretched as Harold held his breath. Would they rise to meet this new challenge? Harold's eyes darted to the fallen shelf, a cascade of colors scattering across the floor like a wrecking ball in their newly found joy. The laughter of the children faded into uncertain whispers, and the weight of the moment settled heavily on him. "Stay here, I'll check it out," Harold said, his voice steady, but he felt the tremors beneath. He gave the little boy a reassuring smile, but his heart was racing as he approached the site of the chaos. The shelves had been stacked high, filled with paint tubes, brushes, and bright sheets of paper. His mind raced with the possibilities what other mess lay hidden beneath that thundering crash. Lisa joined him, her brow furrowed. "We can't let this derail everything. Just breathe." Her presence grounded him. Together they began picking up the scattered supplies, slowly restoring order as children began to gather around, their curious faces painted in concern. "What if we help fix it together?" one girl suggested, her voice trembling slightly. "Yes. Let us make this an adventure," Harold chimed back, trying to shift the energy in the room. Lisa beamed at the kids. "Exactly. A team effort." They rallied, grabbing shovels of brightly colored tubes that had rolled out of reach. Harold watched the kids exchange ideas, laughter slowly creeping back as their little fingers began to sort through the chaos. It was like magic out of disorder, a shared mission emerged. As they worked, Harold stole glances at Lisa. In every moment of connection, he felt the old fears of doubt slip away, replaced by the undeniable bond they were forming in this shared space. "Hey, what about we turn this spill into a splash?" Lisa suggested, grinning at the kids. "Imagine painting with wide strokes. Let us create a rainstorm of colors." The kids cheered, their excitement electrifying the air. They took one of the paper rolls and laid it out, mixing the fallen paint into a vibrant swirl of dripping colors, a tapestry of chaos that showed beauty in their mistakes. Harold could feel hope dance in his chest like a child waving colors in the breeze. The sight of Lisa, free and lively amidst the kids, rekindled the spark of connection they once had. If they could embrace the mess here, maybe they could do it in their own lives too. "Look, it's like everyone's quirks coming together," he said, watching as the children dipped their brushes into chaotic mixes of color. "Each stroke is like a part of who we are." "Exactly," Lisa exclaimed, spinning around. "Together, it's not just a mess, it's a masterpiece." But as the laughter rang out, he couldn't shake the lingering questions that lurked at the edges of his mind. Could they really embrace each other's imperfections? Would they rise above their prior hurts and disappointments? Just as he dared to hope, the sirens of their past began to echo in his head. What if the waves of laughter faded, leaving them stranded once more? Just then, a voice called from the direction of the back door, a familiar face peering in. Harold's heart sank as he recognized his neighbor, the one who had never held back on his critical opinions when it came to their family. "Hey! Is everything okay in there?" she shouted, concern etched across her features. And for a split second, Harold felt the warmth of their moment falter. What would this confrontation bring? Would his neighbor's question shatter their masterpiece? Harold steadied himself, knuckles tight around the paintbrush as he turned toward her. Could they prove the strength of their renewed family in front of those who had always doubted them? "Yeah, we're actually making something beautiful," he replied, his voice rising above the storm brewing within him. But even as he spoke, he felt the heavy weight of skepticism in her gaze. Would they be able to showcase their strength, not just to her, but to themselves? As silence fell, he knew the moment was far from over. The question hung in the air, thick enough to cut through: could they face the world together without fear? The silence lingered, stretching like elastic, and Harold's heart raced with the pressure. The children exchanged glances, their brushes frozen in mid-air. Lisa's eyes darted back and forth between Harold and the doorway, the excitement fading from her smile. This was the moment they had dreaded, the voices of doubt cutting through their fragile bubble. "It's all right, Harold began, but then hesitated. The neighbor's gaze was sharp, her skepticism palpable. He could feel the weight of her eyes, measuring, judging. Just a few weeks ago, he might have backed down, but he clenched his jaw, pushing through the noise in his head. "What are you making?" she asked, tone cautious but tinged with genuine curiosity. "Art," a small boy shouted, breaking the tension. He thrust his brush into the air, colors dripping like confetti. "It's a rainbow storm." "Exactly," Lisa chimed in enthusiastically, stepping closer to the children. "We're turning a mess into something magical together." For a moment, Harold saw the flash of surprise in the neighbor's eyes, a flicker of amusement that hinted she hadn't expected this, but could she truly grasp the spirit they were cultivating? He held his breath, waiting for her next words. "That's great, I guess," she replied, her voice softening slightly, but Harold could still hear the hesitance. As she stepped closer, the children returned to their art, their laughter breaking the tension like sunlight through clouds. Harold felt a slight shift in the atmosphere. Maybe they could make her understand. Maybe they could show her there was beauty in their imperfections, too. "Would you like to join us?" Lisa's voice rang with an inviting warmth, her eyes sparkling as she held out a paintbrush. "It's all about teamwork." The neighbor hesitated momentarily, glancing at the chaos around her. Harold could almost see the gears turning in her head. But then, the way Lisa was radiating positivity, the way the children were lost in their vibrant creation, it was hard not to be pulled in by the joy radiating from them. Slowly, she took a step inside, her guarded expression beginning to melt. "I used to paint a little, back in college," she murmured, her voice trailed off, uncertainty bleeding into nostalgia. "Then you can help. We have plenty of colors." A girl piped up, showing her an emerald tube like it was a treasure chest. As the neighbor picked up a brush and dipped it in paint, Harold felt the tension ease a little more. The unlikeliest of alliances was forming. Together, they began swirling colors on the paper, and with each stroke, it felt like they were creating not just art but also a bridge between their worlds. "See? It's kind of messy, but it's fun," Lisa encouraged, and the neighbor let out a soft laugh, her defenses cracking. With every laugh shared and every colorful splash against the paper, Harold began to feel lighter. Maybe, just maybe, they could embrace the imperfections of not only each other but the community at large, turning their paint-splattered chaos into a vision of unity. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw Lisa looking at him, her gaze filled with a mix of hope and challenge. It struck him then, like the vibrant colors on the paper, how much they all needed this moment, this connection. But just as he soaked in the warmth of the scene, a loud crash echoed from the nearby room, the sound of something heavy falling, a stark reminder that chaos could strike at any moment. What now? He thought, dread creeping in. Harold held his breath, aware that his sister had gone into that room alone only moments before. What would they face now? Would their newfound connection withstand another storm? The air thickened again as they all turned toward the noise, uncertainty hanging heavy in the air like the paint on their brushes. The sound of the crash reverberated through the community center like an off-key note in a melody. Harold's heart raced as he quickly turned to Lisa, whose eyes widened with concern. The children paused their artwork, brushes suspended mid-air, their giggles fading into silence. Let us go check it out," Lisa declared, her determination sparking an instant rallying cry among the kids. The moment etched the gravity of their bond, how, after everything, they stood united in facing uncertainties. Without a second thought, Harold nodded. Together, they moved toward the source of the noise, where a couple of tables had toppled over, and supplies lay strewn like fallen leaves. In the middle of the chaos, Harold's sister, Jenna, looked distraught. A box of materials had slipped from her hands, and she was crouched down, trying to gather everything up. "Jenna!" Harold exclaimed as he rushed to her side. "Are you okay?" She glanced up, relief washing over her as their eyes met. "I'm fine. Just a little clumsy," she laughed, trying to brush off the incident. Lisa and the children moved in to help, arms reaching to collect scattered art supplies. The energy shifted again, transforming initial worry into cooperative laughter as they hoisted tables back in place. "It's just like our mural," one of the kids exclaimed. "Messy but beautiful." Harold chuckled, glancing at Lisa, whose eyes sparkled with encouragement. "Exactly. More color, more life," she added. The spirit of unity inflected every corner of the room, and a sense of power grew within Harold. This was not just about seeking forgiveness, it became about cultivating a community that thrives on resilience. As they returned to their previous table with supplies nestled in their arms, Harold took a moment to observe the blending of faces, each filled with determination, a mixture of childhood and adulthood. He felt a swell of pride rise within him, a powerful emotion urging him to voice what had transformed in his heart. Jenna smiled at her brother, her tone teasing but sincere. "Looks like you're shaping up to be a pretty great dad after all, huh?" The warmth of her words struck him deeply. Here, under the imperfect shadows of their shared history and under the weight of his past, something new was blooming. "I'm working on it," he replied, scanning the crowd. "I'm trying to be better for all of us." Lisa caught his gaze again, and in that moment a knowing passed between them, transcending words. Hope flickered in the air around them, hanging like confetti as laughter began to fill the room again. Each tiny triumph, the smallness of shared messiness, felt monumental. Then the reality of vulnerability shifted like the tide. He turned and faced the children who had watched him with eager eyes. "How about we show our neighbor here just how magical our storm can be?" he declared, pointing to the vibrant tapestry emerging from the remnants of their earlier chaos. "Yeah." The kids cheered, enthusiasm erupting like fireworks. As the rush of happiness enveloped him, Lisa squeezed his arm, catching him by surprise. "Thank you for stepping up, Harold. It really means a lot," she whispered, her voice carrying warmth that melted his lingering fears. "No, thank you for believing I could," he replied, the gravity of their journey pulling them close. After that moment of vulnerability, they all leaped into action, painting strokes that splattered their canvas with daring colors, old pain washing away in the process. Voices melded together in a chorus of laughter and creativity, sweeping away the weight of expectations. The once quiet neighbor was no longer skeptical, her laughter mingling as she painted alongside them. Each brushstroke echoed the truth they were uncovering, stripping away pretenses, forging connections that transcended difference. As the mural emerged from chaos, bright and unique, Harold realized it symbolized their shared journey toward transformation, the scrapes of their imperfect past beautifully mingling with the strokes of their present. Every splatter became a promise of new beginnings. Near the end, they stepped back, exhausted and elated. The mural, a vibrant explosion of color and emotion, stood as a testament to the growth they had achieved both as individuals and as a community. Harold felt something deep shift in him. The chain of biases that had once held tight around his heart began to break, melding powerfully with the simple realization that new connections were not only possible, they thrived. With the cool evening air brushing softly against their flushed cheeks, he turned to Lisa. "Can we do this together? Be a team, to support Alex while working on ourselves?" Her smile illuminated the space between them as she nodded. "Yes," she said softly, "and I'd like to believe we can build a future not just for Alex, but for us. In that moment, everything clicked into place: hope, intention, and a vision for a different tomorrow. They still had a way to go, but together, they'd face a future unshackled from old scars, illuminated by something beautiful. Community matters, he reflected quietly, feeling the warmth radiating from the children, from Lisa, from life. As laughter filled the air, he stepped forward on this journey hand in hand with the woman who had opened his heart, and just like that, it felt like freedom. So here's the call to action, my amazing friends. You need to subscribe now, or you might just miss the next exclusive stories filled with heart and transformation. This is the moment to show your support by hitting that like button. Do it now to feed the algorithm. Comment below, sharing your reactions and feelings about this heartfelt ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to witness this uplifting transformation. Thank you for being a part of this journey.